As investigators try to identify a teenager found dead in a popular Colorado park, another teen is at home changing his identity. Baffled by the murder, detectives catch a break when they begin to talk to students where both teens went to school. My name is M. William Phelps. I'm an investigative journalist and the true crime author of close to 50 books. I've dedicated the past 25 years of my life to helping families of the missing and murdered. Join me. We're crossing the line. For some teenagers, there is a point during those pivotal years when they face a crossroads moment. Which path do I take? This decision, unfortunately one you should not have to make at such a young age, can change the entire course of your life. For me, I thought I chose the wrong direction, and looking back on it all, I likely had. Fortunately, I was able to crawl out from under some of those bad decisions and, working hard toward being a productive, generally happy, grateful, and fortunate human being, persevere. But things could have just as easily went the other way. Of course, there was no internet, social media, or cell phones back when I stood at that fork in the road. So I cannot even imagine what it must be like today for a kid. 14-year-old Josiah's Jojo Aragon is there, standing at the doorstep of decision during the summer of 2022. Looking at photos of Jojo during this time, he doesn't even look 14. He comes across much younger. Short black hair, olive skin, soft, calm, happy eyes, and, in one picture, a smile I am sure has all of the girls crooning over him. It's mid-August, kind of a hot day in Denver, Colorado, and the surrounding region. And although the scenery and mountain views in downtown can be charming and take your breath away, Denver, same as most big cities, can be a difficult and dangerous place. Jojo is from a loving, caring family. If asked, they'd call Jojo family-oriented, spiritual, spontaneous, and intelligent. They say in reports that Jojo is one of those kids who is enjoying his teen years and is your typical 14-year-old playing video games, and although he favored Mexican food, the kid would eat just about anything put in front of him. In fact, one of his favorite things is pasta tossed with ranch dressing. One family story about Jojo is quite impressive. Since the time he was 2 years old, Jojo could do one-handed push-ups, which ultimately led to him excelling in wrestling, boxing, and football. He also has a bit of an old soul vibe about him, saying that his favorite song is 1983's Tennessee Whiskey by country music legend of legends, George Jones. Jojo also has a positive outlook on life, his family says, no matter what is going on. His one wish is to always be able to take care of his little sister and his mother. School is important to Jojo. He has plans in life and understands education is an imperative spoke in the wheel of those plans. As Jojo's 15th birthday approaches in early August 2022, he seems to have a lot going on, some of which he is keeping from his close-knit family. The Southwest Recreation Center in Denver is a popular spot for teens in the West Saratoga Place neighborhood. It's a pleasant area. Kids hang around and play pickup basketball games and swim, work out in the gym, or just hang out and chat it up. A fight might break out every so often after words are exchanged, but kids will be kids, and other than that, it's one of those safe places teens can feel good about going to. A quick look at the latest crime statistics for the neighborhood shows your common, typical crime you'd see in any major city neighborhood. Burglaries, domestic violence, harassment, people breaking into vehicles, minor assaults. Nothing really gravely concerning jumps out. I don't see any trends or anything that might cause residents in the surrounding areas to raise an eyebrow and worry. Like most people, residents go about their business and live their lives the best they can. So when this call comes in to the Denver Police Homicide Unit on Monday, August 8th, 2022, just before 3 p.m., indicating that someone has been shot in the face in the park in the back of the rec center, it's kind of surprising. Middle of the day, on a Monday, a homicide in the park? A woman had been walking her daughter's dog in the park when she tells the 911 dispatcher she went around to the back of the rec center and saw a body on the ground, and the person appeared to have been shot in the face. It takes first responders 4 minutes to get there. By 3:05 p.m., EMTs, fire personnel, and police declare the victim deceased, and officers begin securing the scene. The first issue they face is identifying the young victim. He has no wallet or ID on him. The rec center and park do have some security, so that is your first visit if you are a detective investigating not only who the victim might be, but if anyone saw anything suspicious that day. Had anyone heard a gun go off? Was there a fight inside the rec center? Maybe a beef started on the basketball court or at the pool. After talking to several people on scene, investigators lock onto a guy who claims to have seen something suspicious. I saw this teenager walk east past the pool, and then he disappeared out of sight. He caught my attention because he was wearing a black hoodie with the hood up, black sweatpants, and I thought that was odd because it was so hot out. They asked him, "Did you see anything else?" "Yeah." He walked over to another young male, and they high-fived each other. I thought it was kind of normal, but then a few minutes after that, I heard what I thought was a firework go off. Then I realized it was a gunshot. "Where did that sound come from?" one of the investigators asks. "Where the teen in the hoodie had walked to, past me and out of sight," he says. After speaking to the witness, the detective goes back over to the crime scene, slips under the yellow tape, and stands over the victim, who is dressed in exactly what that witness had just described. Looking at the scene, the victim was murdered in an area outside of the more populated sections of the park. The victim was found on his back. He is young, investigators know, probably early to late teens. His injuries are extensive. They believe in that moment he was shot in the face, but also likely beaten in the face and head as well, with what appears to be a very hard, blunt force object. They also recover several rounds of live ammunition, the base plate for a handgun magazine, and a fired or spent cartridge. One detective spots bloody footprints in the grass and notes that the prints do not match the shoes the victim is wearing, so they likely have the killer's shoe prints. Turning, looking around the general area, investigators notice a few houses facing the crime scene, and they have security cameras out front. Footage. As an investigator, this can be an exciting moment, obviously, because there is the chance you might have the entire homicide on video. The victim either wasn't carrying identification, a cell phone or wallet, or his killer had taken it. The murder, however, doesn't have the hallmarks of an old-school robbery, as if he was ambushed, murdered, and robbed. Instead, it feels more like the victim and his killer knew each other. The amount of anger and rage here, based on how badly beaten the teen's face is, speaks to a different motive. And so as the body is taken away and investigators spread out to see what footage might have been caught on digital tape, the medical examiner prepares to conduct an autopsy and fingerprint the victim to see if they can identify him. I don't have to tell most true crimers, as many of you who watch that ghastly, repetitious, and tedious show, Dateline, murder investigations begin in the inner circle of the victim. You get into that ring of people around the victim, and you are more than likely going to come face to face with your killer. Let's take our first break here. And please check out Season 5 of my iHeartMedia limited series podcast, Paper Ghosts, releasing in just a few weeks. This new season is my biggest case yet, the Texas teen murders. Back in 1 minute. I want you to picture this. Lifting the cold hand of a murder victim, carefully taking each finger and scanning the prints into a mobile fingerprint reader, with the hope those prints come back with a match after being run through the system. It's not easy work. There, in front of you, is a child, essentially, cut down before his life has even had a chance to begin. Most medical examiners tell me that they have trained their minds to compartmentalize each body they examine into science and are able to leave emotion, faith, feelings, and thoughts outside the door into the morgue. They are there to tell this dead person's story and allow them to speak this one last time. I've heard this from some of the most well-known names in the field. I can buy that to a certain extent for the most part, because look, we are human beings first and foremost. And so it's just not saying, I leave my religion, my beliefs, thoughts, feelings outside the door, and I am a simple scientist inside this room, examining a body to help the person tell his or her story. I have asked medical examiners if that still holds true when you have a child on the table, or a baby, an abuse victim. They tell me it doesn't matter. I don't buy that. I will also say, the more you do this type of work, the harder you become, and the more agile you get at compartmentalizing your working life. So I get that to a much smaller degree. Those fingerprints come back, and the Denver police do not get a match, which is disappointing and frustrating for investigators. Because as they work to identify the victim, their killer is slipping further and further away. The victim is just over 5 feet tall and about 100 pounds, petite kid. As they inspect his body, they find 2 tattoos, which is always a plus when trying to identify a John Doe. A few additional factors become important from the autopsy. The victim had dozens of blunt force injuries around his face and head, and he was actually shot in the left shoulder blade, not the head. That shoulder blade shot went in and exited out of the base of his neck. His killer had shot the boy in the back. There are also 2 patterned injuries to his face and neck consistent with the tread of a shoe, the medical examiner says. His killer had stomped on him. In one of the reports from the primary investigator, he says that in over 100 homicides he had been involved in throughout his career, this was the most violent assault he had ever seen. And he had never seen a case where a victim had been assaulted in so many different ways. Stabbed, pistol whipped, shot, and then stomped. The next day, the Denver police take a report from a family member of Jojo Aragon, who says they are worried about him, having seen on the news a body of a teenager found in that Denver park. Although Jojo lives 20 miles from that park, they have not heard from him in 24 hours. So they dispatch an investigator to head over and speak with Jojo's family. Jojo, the family says, left the house the previous day with a young man they did not know, and he's been gone ever since. They describe Jojo, what he was wearing when he left, and provide photographs. The investigator, listening to this description, looking at the photo, knows by now their John Doe is Jojo Aragon. Then the family describe Jojo's tattoos. This confirms it. After the initial shock of Jojo's murder settles on the family, investigators begin to ask them about the boy Jojo had left with. They didn't really know him, they say. Then they mention another teen who they were under the impression is a gang member. And he had threatened to shoot up their house for some reason and said he was going to do it on Jojo's birthday, which is just one day away. Investigators focus on the alleged gang member, a 15-year-old, and another boy Jojo knew, also 15. Jojo knew both boys very well. One of the boys had actually been killed back in April 2020, and according to Jojo's friends and family, his enemies became Jojo's enemies. Apparently, this was how it worked in that world. What is also clear is that there is no specific evidence that Jojo was involved in gang activity beyond his connection to these two kids. And Jojo's murder doesn't really have the feel of a gang-style hit. Jojo seemed to be lured to that park. He was 20 miles away from his home. Somebody definitely summoned the boy there for some reason. One problem became that Jojo, investigators learned next, was a witness to that alleged shooting where the boy had died. Jojo had even met with detectives about the incident, a case which was later closed as unfounded and believed to be a self-inflicted wound. The kid, according to police, had actually killed himself. They get hold of Jojo's cell phone records to take a look at recent activity and who he has been talking to and texting with. As they are going through that information, a report comes in of someone posting on Facebook claiming they are going to jail for the shooting in the park. They take a look at that post, which shows an unnamed young man blocking his face behind two handguns. Investigators know that the information about Jojo being shot has not been released publicly, only that a young boy has been found dead and the case has been ruled a homicide. So that Facebook post is significant. Not long after that, on August 10th, which would have been Jojo's 15th birthday, Crime Stoppers comes in with a tip. Someone called in to say that the kid on Facebook and Jojo knew each other and were friends. Speaking further with the tipster, investigators find out that Jojo was, according to the tipster, set up, brought to the park so this Facebook kid could shoot him. I have to interject here for a moment and say something. There is so much going on in the world of a teenager today, their closest family members and even friends might not even know about it. Teens carry a tremendous weight in some cases. A weight so heavy, I can imagine they don't know what to do with it. I'm not sure where this is all rooted, or how what should be an incredible, memorable time of their lives with so much hope and fulfillment of dreams for the future turns into a nightmare for some kids. But I think we need to pay more attention to cases like this one, which can tell us a lot about that world of a teenager we find out about only when it's too late. The leading cause of death among teens 15 to 19 in the United States since the early 2020s is unintentional injuries, i.e. motor vehicle accidents, etc., with homicide coming in a very close second. Third is suicide. The reality is that so many young people die from preventable causes every single day. In 2020, 12,278 teen deaths were reported, which breaks down to 59 deaths per 100,000 teens. And those numbers, although we could say were a bit elevated by the pandemic, remain about the same from 2021 to 2024. Firearms, which do not play a larger role than any other manner of death, before this period increased by 33% during those years. 33%. Yikes. A third. That says something. What exactly we need to find out. I'm not sure what all this data tells us beyond the fact that there are far too many, and one would be too many, teens dying from preventable causes, which says more about us, the adults in society, than it does about them, I think. Investigators end up getting video footage of a purple Scion motor vehicle pulling up to the park with Jojo getting out. So someone dropped Jojo off at that park. The footage, as they sit and watch it, clearly makes it appear as if the kid who drove the vehicle seemed to be very unfamiliar with the area. They still do not know the identity of the other kid, who could be a suspect or just a friend of Jojo's giving him a ride. So they release the image of the vehicle and ask anyone who might know the owner of the car to come forward. Not long after that, a call comes in. A young girl says she'd last seen Jojo on that Sunday somewhere near noon when he left her place with his friend, the driver of that car. She didn't know the boy driving the car, but added that the boy went to Bear Creek High School with Jojo, a classmate. This kind of answered a question they'd had. Why was Jojo at a park 20 miles away from where he lived at that time? Investigators then speak with a resource officer from Bear Creek High School. He says he knew Jojo. He calls him a very charismatic kid, but he often dressed and behaved as if he was a wannabe gang member. The report of that conversation notes. Quote, Jojo was never involved in any serious trouble at school. Something, they feel, is not adding up here. They need to find this other boy. Let's break one final time here and come back to conclude the sad, entirely preventable and unnecessary tragedy. Head over to patreon.com/MWilliamPhelps and sign up for my free content page, where I'll be interacting with you, doing live streams, posting exclusive content. That's patreon.com/MWilliamPhelps. patreon.com/MWilliamPhelps. More Crossing the Line with M. William Phelps in one moment. The day after Jojo's murder, a student from Bear Creek High School is scrolling around social media, lost in the numbing world of their phone. And as this person is doing that, a text from a boy named Diego comes in. It's a photo of Diego's hands, and they are covered in blood. Investigators get this information and begin to look at Diego Lopez, who had just turned 17 on August 9th of that year, a day before Jojo's birthday and a day after Jojo's murder. Turns out Diego lives just around the corner from the park. When they run his name through the system, they find nothing. No prior arrests, no trouble whatsoever. Even the school says they've never had an issue with Diego. What's also clear is that the person in that purple Scion who dropped off Jojo is not Diego, because they pull additional security footage from an area near Diego's home and see that Diego leaves his house just before Jojo arrives and then is seen running back toward his home just after Jojo is murdered. As word spreads that police are onto something, witnesses begin stepping forward, claiming to have seen a boy fitting Diego's description hanging around the park, walking to and running away near the time of the murder. One witness even says she found a bloody $20 bill on the sidewalk within the path Diego had taken back home after the time of Jojo's murder. Jojo had been threatened on numerous occasions throughout that summer and even before, all because he had allegedly witnessed that murder, which was later ruled a suicide. Jojo had become so scared, his friends tell investigators, he bought a Taurus 9mm handgun for protection. Days after Jojo's murder, a witness comes forward and says they heard a video of Jojo's murder had been posted on the social media app Snapchat. Detectives run this down and cannot find the video. As they focus on Diego and begin to collect information and new evidence, there seems to be an abundance of proof that Diego Lopez murdered Jojo. By Thursday, August 18th, 2022, Denver police have a warrant and head over to Diego's home with members of the SWAT brigade to arrest Diego for Jojo's murder. There is some early confusion and a bit of opposition to such a large group of law enforcement, and yet law enforcement, to their credit, are able to tame the situation down and convince Diego to come out. He had initially looked through the door window, saw the team coming, and retreated inside the house, a report of the incident says, to, quote, destroy evidence related to the murder. Diego had also altered his looks, shaving his head and his goatee. Diego denies being involved in the murder, but as the weeks progress, law enforcement puts together an airtight case against him. 80% or more of their case is documented on social media and Diego's cell phone and Facebook and Snapchat accounts. There's no question he killed Jojo. It's all there under a digital footprint. And as they get into this evidence and take a close look at it, a motive emerges. Sadly, Jojo and Diego had been doing what investigators called gun deals. And Jojo, according to the report, had sold Diego what is called a Polymer 80 gun back in July, which another name for is ghost gun. Ghost guns are sold as a kit, and so no serial number or background check is required, making them almost impossible to trace. On that day of Jojo's murder, he and Diego began texting near 10 a.m. Diego texted Jojo and said he'd just gotten home from a weekend away. "What's the word?" he asks Jojo. "Let's meet," Jojo says. "I got a 9 for you." Diego, in previous texts, had been discussing with Jojo the idea of trading in his ghost gun for a 9mm and some extra cash. "Come alone," Jojo texts Diego, after Diego suggests they meet at that park. "I don't trust others," Jojo then says. Such a prophetic statement from Jojo. He trusted Diego, never saw the kid as a threat. Diego killed Jojo with the gun Jojo was selling him, and used such force and rage when beating Jojo that the base plate of the weapon fell off. There's a photo of Diego from a few years before he committed the murder. He looks like everybody's child. One more kid out there in the world trying to make something of himself. Eyeglasses, earrings, curly hair, and a very youthful, almost baby face. He has this slight smile you cannot help but to notice. In just a few years from the time this photo was taken, his entire demeanor changes. In his booking photo, Diego comes across as an angry, rage-filled, stern, stoic young man. That youthful energy and spirit, completely gone. He is charged as an adult, and his attorney comes out and says, "I don't understand why we have the juvenile regime of laws if we are going to charge juveniles as adults." He added how lately he has been seeing it more and more and more in Denver and throughout the country. Diego was the third juvenile charged as an adult in just 3 weeks by the Denver DA's office. Diego faced 6 counts, including second-degree murder on top of first-degree murder. Facing all those counts and a litany of inculpatory evidence against him, in early 2025, Diego agrees to plead guilty to second-degree murder. He accepts responsibility, the DA says in a statement. In July 2025, Diego is sentenced to 48 years in prison. And so 2 teens' lives are destroyed, one whose family will never again hear the boy laugh, see him cry, watch him get married, have kids, and become whatever it is he wanted to become. And for what? How does a teen's life come to this? Selling weapons and murder? Where is that all rooted? This is one reason why I chose this story, to dig down into this painful trend and try to understand how this happens so we can maybe inject some reasoning and figure out how to stop it. And yet, on the other side of that, my only conclusion, the only answer I can come up with is somewhere within it all, I have to believe something was missing from the lives of obviously troubled kids. We find out what that is, perhaps we can change it. I put no blame on Jojo. This is all on Diego Lopez. That's it for this week. Be safe, be aware. Sources for this episode include the people of the state of Colorado versus Diego Lopez and his arrest warrant. Crossing the Line is executive produced by M. William Phelps, LLC, and Matthew Valentinus, Mom's Basement Management. Written by me, M. William Phelps. Audio mastering and mixing by Matt Russell. Music by Epidemic Sound. Original music written and performed by Thomas Mooney, Tom Phelps, and Matt Russell.